Hello, my beautiful friends, my fellow space blobs, the sparkly blobs. You know who you are if you feel connected to that energy and all the forms that we might take in a lifetime, because that's the thing. We're not always going to be one single thing. We're always going to be changing and transforming. Even the culture tells us we need to get like a title and accomplish that title, accomplish that identity, and then stick with it for the rest of time. Of course, that's not life. We're meant to constantly be transforming and having different roles and different forms and different ways that we express ourselves. And this Capricorn full moon is going to really reflect so many of those themes. We're going to be challenging some of the stereotypes around this idea of Capricorn and the energy of Capricorn. We're going to be turning some things on their head. We're going to be diving deep beneath the surface when it comes to Capricorn, because this is such a spiritually meaningful, powerful full moon. It is full of support, medicine, and this idea of just witnessing ourselves and our changing forms and the process that we are in. It's really initiating us into letting go of trying to control ourselves into perfectionism. And it's also a deeply spiritual full moon that's going to be giving a lot of us some really big messages from the greater energetic world and bringing that into our systems, helping translate that into our bodies, into our lives. And I'm really excited to explore the first of two Capricorn full moons that we are going to be having this Cancer season. Let's get into it. I had this plan for waking up early today and getting right into this conversation and being on top of it and forward motion and all of that good stuff. And then I had a day that just took me in every single other direction, and then ended up with me really needing to take a nap this afternoon before I could sit down to really do this conversation justice. And I think that's such a fitting message for this Capricorn full moon. One of the things we're going to be noticing as we move through some of these conversations today is that a lot of the expectations in pop astrology for Capricorn is it's like driven, hardworking, focused on always achieving and making things happen in this kind of linear accomplishment, individualistic, rugged individualism kind of themes that you'll often see in stereotypes and memes are going to be challenged and turned on their head, because a lot of the medicine of Capricorn is about learning what it really means to be with ourselves and learning how to show up fully in this world. And the fact that we're having two full moons in Capricorn, one at the very beginning of Cancer season and one at the very end, just speaks to the fact that I think so many of us are needing this medicine right now and needing to work with this beautiful full moon energetic, specifically in Capricorn. This first full moon's coming in June 21st to the 22nd at 1 degree of Capricorn. So 1 degree full moons are always such initiatory, beautiful energetics that are inviting us into some new ways of seeing ourselves and understanding ourselves. And one of the first things that came to mind when I started to feel through this first full moon in Capricorn is that it's very close to the solstice. It's happening just the couple of days right after the official solstice on June 20th, when the sun moves into Cancer. And solstices are these veil thinning points in the year. I know we often think about that with Halloween and other parts of the year, but solstices are also known as times where we're very deeply connected to the other side. We're standing in the doorway between worlds. And I think one of the first things we're going to be noticing around the energies around this full moon is that we're getting a lot of insights from the energetic world, from the non-physical world. And we're going to be learning how to interpret and integrate those energies, those messages, because Capricorn's an earth sign. It helps us to translate into the fact that we're living in a physical world as well. So this is a really beautiful time to be translating and understanding and listening and using our intuition. So creating little moments of quiet through those few days, through the solstice, through this full moon, you might find that you're having really, really powerful visions, understandings, aha moments, connections, clarity, and a sense of peace that's coming into understanding your process and how it's moving through. So that's one of the first things I love about this full moon. Now let's talk about some of the big themes that are coming up here and some of the elements that I think are so fascinating when we're working with Capricorn energy. The first theme that came to mind as soon as I started working with this full moon is let go in order to move forward. We often think about Capricorn in this linear way. You know, Capricorn's ruled by Saturn, and Saturn also is considered kind of this restrictive, punishing father force, which that's another video. That's another conversation about Saturn. But all of that we just need to take it off the table, because Capricorn is not about control. It's not about controlling ourselves, performing ourselves into a sense of safety. And a lot of times Capricorn will get put in that category where it's like, this is about who you are to the world. This is about how you perform your role in the world. This is how you fit into the world in a way that makes sense to the world and you fulfill expectations. But if we start from that vantage point where it's, okay, how do I fulfill expectations? How do I look at myself from outside and say, this is who I need to be? How do I perform myself into a role? It doesn't really hold water, does it? It can't. All of us have done that at some point in our lives, and it normally uses up all our resources and we have to quit doing it at some point. I think so many of us have been finding that the last few years. So really, Capricorn is teaching us a lesson about this idea that just performing, just trying to meet people's expectations, trying to put on an exterior shell isn't going to hold us. And in fact, this full moon is saying, let go. Full moons are always going to be about release of energy at some level. And this one is really about that. This full moon is also doing a gentle square with Neptune in Pisces, because Neptune in Pisces is right at the end of Pisces, and this full moon's right at the beginning of Capricorn. They are squaring off here. And Neptune in Pisces is all about dissolving. It's all about releasing. It's all about like the non-linear way we think. So this square is challenging what we think about as moving forward, as people pleasing, as performing, you know. And one of the first things that came to me when I was feeling through this full moon is like, you got to let go in order to move forward. You have to let go of controlling yourself into the right path and performing yourself into the right path. This is a time to release our expectations around that linear performance, that nice, tidy container. Here's who I am. Here's what people expect of me. Here's what I do in the world. And I can't let anybody down. And just feeling the physical release of not having to carry that anymore. I mean, we could stop right there and I would be happy with this full moon and with some of the beautiful elements that are coming through. But there's more to this, because on top of that, this full moon is really asking about what is success really? And this is one of my favorite themes. It comes up a few times every year in this space for sure, is redefining our sense of success, our definitions of our success, the ways we think we need to show up in the world. Because Capricorn is often tied to this idea of success. You know, the memes and the jokes are all about bankers and finance people and everybody having to be on their computers and making business deals. And it's a very narrow definition of success when we really look at it. It's like success based on this version of the world is like gigantic villas cut into the coastline and cars and first class travel and having lots of money in the bank. And it's just doesn't really have much soul to it, doesn't really have much depth to it. And I think one of the big lessons that Capricorn's really about is about diving into our depths. Capricorn is represented by this sea goat image. And whenever I think about the sea goat, a couple of things really come to mind. One is the mountain and the deep, deep roots of the mountain. You know, a mountain is deeply connected to the core of the earth and the sky. It's kind of like the world tree at some level, and mountain goats are always climbing and moving around this mountain, going up and down. They're navigating between worlds. They're listening to the nature around them. And then it also makes me think of the sea and the depths of the sea. I think for me, Capricorn is really about understanding the importance, the depth of witnessing ourselves, witnessing our gifts, witnessing our longing, and taking that seriously and lovingly. And, you know, Capricorn's so tied to a deep sense of inner parenting, the kind of inner parenting that says, I'm going to show up for what really brings me to life. And in that way, I think Capricorn is actually teaching us so much more about what is true to us. And that it's not just about earning the right to exist by performing all these things and saying that success has to look one way. This is a great full moon for thinking about what success means to you. Even that word is an interesting one to explore, because I think success is a little bit tied to how the external world views us, right? Like success often is about the way we fit into the social norms, into the nice, tidy templates. But if we reclaim that word and take it out of that context, what does it really mean to each of us? And showing up in the world can really only begin when we've taken the time to listen and put our ear to the earth, put our ear to the water, and listen to the vibrations from deep inside. And this full moon is going to demand that for a lot of us, to just stop in our tracks and not physically force forward. Once again, earth signs are going to give us a lot of feedback in our body, especially in full moon time. So this is just going to be a time where if there's something that's really not clicking with you, you're going to be feeling some of that physical resistance. The final theme I wanted to bring up here is this idea of starting new things. While there is this energy of letting go and dissolving and releasing all the performances and identities we think we need to be holding on to, that's really, really strong here. There's going to be this sense of kind of sacrificing, giving up identities, labels, projects, dreams that just do not fit anymore. But in tandem with that, with this 1 degree full moon, is new beginnings. And that's being illuminated here, that so many of us are in a time of initiation to our next form. We may not understand it completely. We may not know exactly what to do with it yet, but we are feeling that call. And there is some questions here about what identities must be released because they no longer feel true. And do you feel allowed to release them to make space for these new beginnings? It's going to be a really powerful full moon. I'm already, I feel like, feeling it. And this is a little over a week as I'm sitting here before this full moon actually comes through. I'm going to be doing an activation over on my Patreon for releasing and making some space and creating a little offering. It's going to go really in tandem with my Summer of the Wild Dreamer that we are doing for the entirety of June, July, and August. Every Friday, I'm offering up a really sweet, gentle practice that is all about getting back in touch with our inner lantern and tending to that inner lantern and lighting it up and just feeling some joy again. I think it's so important. But let's see what intuitive cards want to come out in this conversation. The Emperor. So interesting. Yes. The Emperor is tied to Aries. And Aries and Capricorn both are often associated with how we move in the world, how we show up in the world, how we make our presence known in the world. And the Lovers, yes. As we close out Gemini season and move into Cancer, we're getting the Gemini card. Okay, this is really interesting. I'm going to pull one more card. I can't resist. I just can't resist. Ace of Pentacles. There's that 1 degree full moon in Capricorn showing up for real. Okay, so we have some really big energies here to play with, to feel through, to allow the story to start singing and working with us. So we'll start with the Emperor. Like I said, this card is really tied to Aries, and the Emperor is also the number 4. And is about structure and the way we show up. And of course, the Emperor too is tied to that idea of this like patriarch, which is a complicated topic, but that's also connected to Capricorn and Saturn. We can kind of see these themes. And there's a couple of different ways to really work with this archetype when it shows up. One is to think about our structure. What's holding us? What's feeling like it's really giving us a safe space to land? We all need that. We all need, a safe environment to live and routines that feel like they're supporting us in our unique nervous systems and what we need in our brains and all of that. And that's going to look different for everybody. But what are the structures that are really working for us? Where do we want to tweak them? Where do we want to develop some structures and really invest and seriously show up to creating structure that can hold us, can hold the bigness of spirit, can hold the bigness of the moving energetics? So that's a question that I think does come up with Capricorn and with a full moon like this. Some of those questions around how we want to show up in the world are directly linked to the ways we're treating ourselves and the structures we have behind the scenes. On the other hand, the Emperor can be a bit rigid, a bit stiff, a bit stuck to the old patterns. And so that is one element that I think we're going to be seeing coming up, feeling, emoting, and getting messages from the spirit from the other side are going to be where we're holding on to old routines and saying, well, I have to do this because that's what people expect. I have to do this because this is what keeps me safe. I have to do this because this is who I am. This is the container that I hold. And places where that's feeling like it's hurting and it's just not fitting anymore, we're going to be looking directly at them and knowing what they are. It's going to be an interesting conversation. On the other side, we have the Lovers. And this is a very free-spirited energy and much more mutable. It's connected to that Gemini energetic, which is that free-flowing air energetic. And we are working with Jupiter and Gemini at this point. We've just been through a very, very powerful high-speed Gemini season. But this card, the Lovers, it's about a deep creative expression. We have the trinity here of figures creating that creative field. You know, the number 3 is all about creating something new, combining 2 elements to create something new. But the Lovers is also about taking a step outside of the lines, the preset of the world, the way that we're told you have to do it, and being brave enough to leave behind the old home that we may feel like we have to have allegiance to. So this is a card that's about the scary moment when we decide we want to make something new, but it means we're going to have to break the old rules. It means we will not be able to hold the same form. It means that we don't know exactly what's going to happen next. And in doing that, we're going to feel vulnerable. We might even feel shame or self-judgment around leaving that safe Garden of Eden where everything had its rule, had its place, had its known function, and going out into the mystery of the world and the initiation of the world. This is an initiatory card that is sparking and asking us to be brave enough to leave behind the rules as we have known them so far and find something new. But there's a reward in that. And that's what the Ace of Pentacles is a reminder here. The vulnerability of leaving behind old identities, of claiming what's really speaking to us and calling from us through the depths of the mountain and the depths of the sea as we put our ear to the ground and we really, really listen and we really, really witness how we're changing. There is deep reward. The deep reward of coming home to ourselves, the deep reward of feeling a sense of profound inner parenting, which is what the Cancer Capricorn axis is all about. And that's getting lit up here with this full moon. The deep inner parenting that is about actually saying, hey, I see you, I witness you, I want you to feel well in this world. I want you to feel that you belong in this world. How can we make that happen? So this is a powerful one. I've gotten so many goosebumps working through this reading with you all today. I'm feeling it so deeply. I wish I could just take everything I'm feeling intuitively and give it all to you in this moment. I feel like words just cannot express the power of this full moon. But like I said, I'm going to be doing an activation where we're going to be offering up some of these old identities and feeling the relief and then seeing what sparks next. So I'm going to be walking us through that. And like I said, that's in tandem with our Summer of the Wild Dreamer, which is just this beautiful project that I created for myself because I needed a way to return to my inner lantern. I needed a way to come back to something beautiful. So I had the courage to keep living this life and being here and in a meaningful way, in a way that made me feel totally alive and connected to the process. So I wanted to share that with all of my patrons. So check out Patreon. I really stand behind what I create there. It's a really, really special place. You can also find me on Instagram or my website. I've got big plans. I don't know exactly what it's all going to look like, but I know that over the next 6 months, a lot of new things are going to be happening. And I hope that you will stick around to find out what this all looks like as we keep moving forward. I'm so looking forward to our next conversation, the next couple of moon talks we have, Cancer season, all of the good stuff. I'm sending you all my love. Have a beautiful full moon in Capricorn. the first time around anyway.